Welcome back to my workshop. Now today I just want to do a small improvement to the log shed that I built in this video. The front of it needs a bit more protection. At the moment the wind and rain drives onto the wood, so what I want to do is put some slats on the front. So what I've done is I've gone out and got some more wood here. This is again more pallet wood. I actually got it from these guys, okay, Reclaim and Upcycle. Now these guys are based in Essex in England. They're on Facebook, check them out if you want to get some reclaimed timber. Right, let me take you to the woodshed and I'll show you what I need to do. So as it stands at the moment, when I start stacking the wood in, there's a chance that it's all going to fall out, and also the wind and rain blows this way, so it ends up getting the wood wet, which is not desirable. For now, I've just quickly put a couple of bits of wood here, and this is the idea I want to replicate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of battens down the side here, and then put these slats in the front so I can remove them when I want to get to the wood, like that. Okay, that's the idea. So first things first, let's cut a couple of battens and get them fixed in place. Okay, so what I've got to make the battens out of is a couple of bits of old skirting board. They've got some nasty chunks out of them and some strange knots, which I'll have to live with. But I basically want to cut these into 1 metre lengths, and I need 12 of those. Okay, so 4 for each archway. Right, I'll set up my table saw and then quickly rip these. Right, so I've now got my battens cut to the right size. It's about 20mm square. What I'm going to do now is cut them down into 1 metre lengths and then go and offer them up to the log shed. To do that, I've probably got to turn my table saw sideways because I haven't got the width in my workshop, but I've got enough length. So I'm going to turn this round, use my table saw sled and cut them into 1 metre lengths. Right, so I've got my battens cut, but what that means now is I've got to empty this, and it's just started to rain. So I'm going to start that before I get soaked. Right, while it's busy chucking down rain outside, I've already got wet. I'm just going to make some blocks. Now I'll need these for the back side of the posts, so the battens can actually fix to these. So for each of these, what I've done is I've quickly marked out the centre point by corner to corner, and then what I'll do is I'll quickly run a compass round this, and this will give me 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, so I can drill some holes. Okay, don't really need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right, before I carry on out there, this has happened. I've got a bacon sandwich. Thanks, Mrs. Little Workshop. Right, I'm now sitting in the woodshed. Now the idea of these blocks is just so they fit here, so I've got something for the battens to fit onto at the back. Okay, otherwise it'll be sticking out too far at the front. So all I've done is I've held this block in place with a clamp, and I'm just going to quickly screw it in with the 4 screws. Just like that. Right, so that's all the inner battens are on. What I need to do next is actually cut the slats, but the problem is each opening is a different size. So I've got to cut the slats and then I can figure out where the next batten goes. Right, so I'm going to cut the slats now. This distance is different than this distance, so all I've got to do is measure between the posts and then take off probably about 5mm, so there's room for the slats to move up and down. So I'll do some measuring and then start cutting some slats. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 1 slat for each, just to make sure they are the right size, to make sure I've measured it correctly, rather than cut all of my wood and then find out I've done them too short. So the first cut, I've got to square off the end of this piece of pallet and then measure off and start doing some cutting. Right, so I've got my first 3 cut. I'll go and try those in the hole, make sure they fit. If they do, then I can cut the rest. Right, so there's all my slats roughly cut. These are all the shorter ones and these are the slightly longer ones. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to physically go around and try all of these in the log shed to make sure they fit. Then I have to select the widest one so I can determine where my battens will go. I'll show you how to do that. Right, so the next step is I'm going to put the second battens in. These have to go here, and obviously the wood slides in here like this. Okay, that's the idea. But first of all, I've got to cut these battens. I've got to trim them so they fit properly. So all I'm going to do is put them in place, and I've got to trim off that little bit there, which is where the cross brace goes. Okay, so I've got a little pencil mark here. I'm going to trim that off and then determine how wide these should be. Okay, so now I've trimmed off this so it's the right profile for the cross member. Now that should fit in there nicely, which it does. Now, I was saying earlier on about selecting the widest piece of wood. Okay, so I've got my widest piece of wood here, and now the reason I've got the widest piece, because if I don't make these runners wide enough, then obviously some of the pieces of wood are not going to fit. So I'm going to take the widest one and use that as my baseline. All I'm going to do is fit it in there and then basically screw this batten into place. That should give me at least enough clearance for all of the slats. Right, so now we've got the battens in this side and in this side. We can now put the slats in, but the only problem we've got is the first few slats can go in easy enough, like this. But then we can't get it in because of the angle. So what I've done is I've made a cutout. Let me show you that cutout. Right, it's a bit rough and ready at the moment, but I can clean that up. So what I've done is I've done a cutout here on this side and also on the other side. Don't know if you can see it because the sun's a bit bright. Okay, I've done a cutout on both sides. So what that means is when I get to the last slat, I can go in like this, and then hopefully it can go in. And the last one. Okay, so it's still in, Flops about a bit, but that's what I was expecting. But all the slats are in. So it's starting to look like this. Okay, right, I'm going to do exactly the same on this one and this one, and then I'll get back to you. Right, so all the slats are now in, all the cutouts are done, so I can get them all in and out. I did do one thing. I put an extra batten in the middle here because this level and this level weren't quite the same, because obviously all the pallets are different sizes. So I've just put a single batten in there, and that should keep them level. What I've got to do now is take all of these out, sand them and profile the edges. Okay, so these are all off now. So I want to profile the edges, the same as I did in the actual build of these. What I want to do is do a round over on the edge of each board, and then it gives this effect, which looks a bit better than just one pallet on top of the other. So I'm going to sand these and then get my router and do a round over on each piece. It's going to take ages. Right, so I now have all of this lot to sand and profile. So let's start the sanding montage. Right, that's just taken hours. Everything now is sanded and it's profiled on the edges. It's not massive, just a little bit of a round over on here and here. Okay, but that's probably about it for tonight. I'll get back to this tomorrow. Everything's about to die. My microphone's about to die and my phone's about to die. So let's go and have a cup of tea. Right, so that's it, it's finally finished. So just the addition of some pallets on the front here makes it look a lot better, stops all the wood falling out. Again, all made out of pallets, no expensive wood here, and a couple of fancy schmancy hanging baskets. They're a bit low, but they'll do. Okay, so I think that's it for this log shed now. I'm going to move on to some different projects in the workshop, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. But the main thing is what this wood is for. Now this is from I'm going to talk to myself. Okay. Now what I need to do is find the widest piece of wood. Where is it? Then I'm going to draw a circle and then my compressor will start.